Thank you very much, MC. It is a great honor and true privilege for me to welcome all of you to this epoch-making press briefing. Allow me to introduce to this public briefing the NCF initiative for mass mobilization of citizens in the goal of rescuing the Nigerian ship of state from foreboding sinking of the nature of the Titanic. After me, my co-chair and colleague in this journey, the Right Honorable Galina Abba, will provide the purpose and the mission of this movement. And then we will take interventions from some of the elders. You have already heard from one of the elders, Dr. Umar Lazu, who was the first person to lead the impact for government in this country. Civil society, big leaders, my colleagues, welcome to this World Press Briefing on the determined effort of these Nigerians, the National Consultative Front, to take action, mobilize the people, and insist on a peaceful path to progress in the face of deteriorating conditions in our national lives. A doctrine of necessity is clearly now needed to reverse the slide. This doctrine of necessity is about reforming the system and the apparatus of government.
This meeting is being recorded.
Ongoing trends result in a complete loss of legitimacy for our democracy. Sadly for our history, I've been here before. I've been here several times before. I was here when as a 19-year-old student leader, Nigeria went through 2 coups, resulting in the end of the Gowon era and the killing of General Murtala Mohammed. And we had to get on the streets to protest the state of the nation. I was there again in 1993 when the election of Chief MKO Abiola was annulled by a handful of officers. I was on the streets, even though I was a dozen years past the age of street protests at that time. I'm glad that I then helped to call out professionals who were concerned for their country. The concerned professionals helped end military rule. Again in 2009, when the presidency was taken hostage by a cabal and a very gravely ill President Yar'Adua battled for his life, I was there. We called our citizens to a Save Nigeria movement, and we saw a doctrine of necessity pull us through. In recent weeks, as many of us watched corrupt reality shows from the National Assembly, looming constitutional crisis between the executive and legislative arms of government, terror on this rural backyard, insurgent banditry mixed with harrowing kidnapping cases, we have come to a realization that the imperative of now is that of awakening Nigerians to the urgency of saving Nigeria. We face an existential crisis today. Ordinarily, in a democracy, when things are going wrong, you wait for the next election to vote out those not performing. But the absence of internal democracy in our leading parties and the phenomenon of state capture suggests that the hope of change from the ballot box in the prevailing political culture is an exercise in futility. We have therefore committed ourselves to a movement to reorient the country, reform the economy, and transform the polity, beginning with a review of the Constitution and electoral laws. With such reforms, elections as a way of getting rid of those not performing can then be contemplated. This is why we are a movement and not one more political party. Fortunately, we have several parties and party leaders in this movement. Right Honorable Galina Abba, my fellow compatriot and co-chair ad interim as we are, for this movement and network of citizens, civil society organizations, and political persons participating in non-partisan ways have articulated a clear vision of Nigeria and our mission to drive our country to that destination within certain values, and will present, that's right, Honorable Naaba will present the NCF modus operandi immediately after these my own remarks, but it is one continuum of presentation of who we are, why we are here. But let me add that our commitment is to building of an inclusive society in which justice supplants impunity and regard for the dignity of the human person is our organizing mantra. This should ensure that women, minorities, and people of special needs get their due place in society, and that, as our original national anthem proclaims, though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Why does our country lie prostrate today? I've pointed to the widespread violence, insurgency, banditry, and crime that is pointing us on the road to Somalia. The crisis in our educational system and the economic troubles that keep our well-being in perpetual recursive mode. Let me speak briefly to 2 or 3 of these before the Right Honorable Galina Abba takes over from Abuja. On violence. Everyone knows that without peace, progress is a pipe dream. Yet we continue to mismanage the violence that is now Nigeria writ large. My first point about violence engulfing us today is that it is so without purpose. We seem to be also so vulnerable to nihilists. As a young secondary school pupil, I lived in Ibadan during the Agbekoya. Could see the purpose of that revolt. It is clear to me, from what I can observe, that military force only by itself is a small part of the solution to the violence crippling the north of our country. Poverty and policy failure regarding education and economic growth are critical to reversing the situation. But we do not see effective deployment of soft power in dealing with the issues. As a movement, we will question the strategy of the authorities and offer alternative paths. As a child, I spent some time growing up in Maiduguri and started school in Kano in the year of our independence in 1960, but spent most of my primary school days in Guzo in today's troubles and State. I can see the errors of strategy so clearly, and that the failure of our political party system in generating appropriate quality leadership for our country at every level is self-evident from our inability to deal with these issues. We must reverse the course now. Giving such a high price from the system failure that we are dealing with, my friends, in the NCF, we return to previous tactics of struggle to save Nigeria, to awaken citizenship, and a previously complicit middle, the detached, uninvolved Nigerians who make up the majority. If democracy is a government of the people, for the people, by the people, then the voice of the people must be made to sound loud and clear that this is not how they want to be governed. Now, Stephen R. Covey, in his important habit of the 21st century is to help people find their voice. The NCF aims to help Nigerians find their voice. And getting the passive majority to become the moral majority, which reorients Nigeria and gets governing back on track, is what we are committing ourselves to. The cost of governing our country and constitutional reform, the need for this. By now, even the blind can see that the cost of governing Nigeria is much more than Nigeria can bear. The way forward should include constitutional reforms. As many of those should make this possible as beneficiaries of the currently unsustainable order. As Machiavelli said 500 years ago, we'll do everything to prevent a new order from coming about. We must therefore turn to the people to say that we have had enough of the current order, even if it means that the people have to get on the streets to say enough is enough. We want to urge the National Assembly to get better and get ready to make the laws that will set our country on a different path. If they choose not to, either because they think they are part of the people who benefit from that old order, the citizens may have to turn to the Orange Revolution type of street taking back of their country. And so we are hoping that reason will prevail and we can reform and get our country going again. On the spirit of this movement, I want to urge all concerned Nigerians to please come with us because the moment is now. Just to close out, what is the strategy that we think will help us bring about the reforms and the changes that will transform our country and get us out of this present situation? The key goal of many leaders of conscience who have come together to drive this movement, almost in the same spirit as the 8-point agenda that the founders of NEPU enunciated 70 years ago this weekend in Kano, is the emancipation of the masses of our people. We aim, therefore, to see a regeneration of Nigeria into an era of citizen politicians dedicated to a production economy and the pursuit of escape from existential misery. Not that of godfathers who loot the commonwealth, as we see every day in our current experience. Our plan is to build a partnership in bond between the artisan class that NEPU effectively mobilized in Kano, a new rural farmer class, an emergent youth mass entrepreneurship class, and the middle class in forging a new capitalism that harvests the opportunity for us to become globally competitive and regain our respect in the world. The new latent comparative advantage around which the thrust of growth and development is envisaged will serve us well. We hope that the movement will also initiate a moral rearmament program in which character will be key to citizenship and public virtue and morality define participation in politics and public life in general. Our hope is that, on September 15, the day the United Nations resolved in 2007 to set aside for reflection to strengthen and consolidate democracy, that day will be a day for nationwide events of light in darkness, to draw attention to threats to democracy, not only in Nigeria, where fascism is on the ascendance, but across our region, where several old presidents who should be retiring to life of wise counsel from their country homes are now doctoring constitutions they helped make to stay further in power. The example of Alassane Ouattara seeking another term in Cote d'Ivoire is sad and dispiriting, just as Guinea's Alpha Condé. Some of us are convinced that Nigeria should lead ECOWAS to dissuade such leaders from that path. Details of our plan of action on the state of democracy in Nigeria and West Africa, and how we plan to mobilize the youth of the sub-region from allowing alien, aging men to damage the future of the youth, instead of giving way to people of knowledge and passion to fashion a path forward for our region to harvest a demographic dividend from our youth, this youth bulge, instead of allowing idle youth to become the source of new refugee camps and IDPs. Our purpose as a movement is to serve the cause of truth and progress for all the people. As Chiefman Damfodio said, that conscience is an open wound and only truth can heal it. Action plan in NCM is a pursuit of truth denied when before this year is out. And we together will take back our country. We need to do that. It's an imperative of our existence. We owe it to our children. We owe it to the future of this country. Honorable Gali Naaba, please continue from Abuja.
Democratic experience, we have had to watch our dear country with dismay, disappointment, and utter shock slide into anarchy. Colonization held for us has become elusive to realize. The country has been left to drift. Hardly can any sector of the country be said to be working, as government seems ineffectual, irresponsive, and incompetent. Unemployment, particularly among our youths, has reached and passed unprecedented levels, while unnecessary loss of human lives due to insecurity has become a recurring decimal, with scores of Nigerians being killed on a daily basis. Our indebtedness, both internal and external, has reached alarming proportions, with the attendant virtual collapse of social and physical infrastructure, leading to pervasive and grinding poverty. The way and manner governance is conducted suggests a high degree of irresponsibility at all levels. The general feeling across the land today is that of delusion, hopelessness, and helplessness. The agony and anguish of Nigerians about the deplorable state of our nation is palpable and worrisome. The feeling also on the part of many Nigerians is that the days ahead as a country are numbered. In short, we are facing an existential problem. Unfortunately, our over-bloated political structure and warped governance system have not been able to rise up to the challenge at all, thereby leaving the Nigerian people distraught, distressed, and despondent. Clearly, this state of affairs in our country is unacceptable and unsustainable. Consequent upon these tales of woes in our country, we as a group of concerned citizens with great conscience are now compelled by these various threats to come forward and confront these unfortunate agonies by initiating an urgent national political action for a new Nigeria, where citizens will be able to meet their basic needs and attain their human potential and fulfillment. To this end, we as Nigerians of conscience have resolved to take urgent action to neutralize and end our unfortunate narratives by coming together under the umbrella of National Consultative Front to collectively pursue the onerous task of rescuing and saving our country from this ominous slope into total collapse. This is intended to be achieved through massive nationwide consultations and mobilization with a view to taking back our common patrimony and place it in the hands of a new generation of selfless, disciplined, and competent political leaders of conscience in Nigeria. For the avoidance of doubt, our only interest lies in creating an inclusive democratic governance, which is a sine qua non towards the provision of a decent living condition for the people and also the facilitation of prosperity for every Nigerian citizen. It is our desire to rescue our fellow citizens from the viper-like grip of poverty while creating jobs for our teeming youth and masses, majority of whom are roaming the streets of our country rudderlessly and hopelessly as we speak. Therefore, every leader and promoter of the National Consultative Front is expected to be a citizen of immense conscience and credibility, who is resolved to give full and total commitment and loyalty to the National Consultative Front agenda to rescue Nigeria from the present socio-political quagmire characterized by corruption, exploitation, impunity, and nonchalance. Such people must be patriotic, altruistic, and committed, and must be seen to be not among Nigerians that played diabolical roles in the political currents of our country, particularly with regards to the derailing of this democracy. Such Nigerians must also be politically conscious and out to rescue the floundering ship of our dear country in solidarity with other like-minded Nigerians in the National Consultative Front. Furthermore, our members and stakeholders are therefore expected to be detribalized, non-discriminatory, change champions, and ideologues with positive values, compelled and anguished by growing political corruption and unprecedented hopelessness in Nigeria, to join forces with other like-minded people of conscience in facilitating an all-inclusive governance paradigm and system. National Consultative Front, ravaged and battered by existing currents in the country, is agitated by the worrisome development of state capture by a few self-serving opportunists who today constitute the ruling power in Nigeria and operating without any clue or worry about the current drift of the state into general anarchy and turmoil. Candor compels us to declare that our country has become a failed state where insurgency, banditry, and kidnapping, as well as pervasive poverty, are the new normal. To this historical end, we have resolved and were elected to undertake massive nationwide consultations and mobilization with a view to building a formidable political platform in the form of a mass movement. In this endeavor, It is our wish to engage with like-minded groups in order to form a very large, strong, and capable force that can challenge the current political parties now in power in the states and the center. In line with this objective, our mission, vision, and strategy are as follows. Our mission includes, and not limited to, the promotion and nurturing of a real democratic political system and people's-centered government that will provide equitable, just, and inclusive governance for the well-being of all Nigerians. In this regard, it is the intention of this front to stick religiously to the principle of internal democracy, which absence in the major political parties is responsible for over 80% of the mess we have been thrown into. Our vision is that of a united Nigeria that will bring prosperity, security, pride, and dignity to all Nigerians. Our strategic objectives include the following, and not limited to them. 1, to establish a formidable mass movement which will result in the creation of an inclusive democratic political platform to groom and provide opportunities to all Nigerians to contest for elections in a competitive process. It is our expectation and belief that it is such a competitive process that can ensure that Nigeria gets the kind of leaders it deserves. Leaders that are competent and that will render selfless service. In the alternative, we will join any political party that will accept to work with us based on our strategic goals and objectives. 2, to educate, enlighten, and reorientate the electorate so that they no longer be manipulated by unscrupulous politicians whose mission in politics is only self-serving. It is our intention to particularly put emphasis on youth and women groups because more than any other groups, they are the most vulnerable and manipulated. Number 3, to consult with all sections of the country with a view to giving Nigerians a constitution that may work for our country to the benefit of all Nigerians. The consultations will include fundamental issues like referendum, self-determination, principles of proportional representation of the people in government, etc. The current constitution cannot be said to be working in favor of Nigerians. To mobilize for the economic well-being and prosperity of all Nigerians by ensuring that Chapter 2 of the present Constitution, i.e. fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy, becomes justiciable once and for all. In the light of our historic mission to enthrone a new Nigeria, we welcome all Nigerians of good conscience at home and in the diaspora, female, male, young, and old, including persons living with disabilities, to join this historic political endeavor to save, rescue, and create a new Nigeria full of equity, justice, prosperity, and peace for all. Consequently, every member and ally of this front shall also be required as a strategic necessity to facilitate a circle of concern of 12 citizens of conscience based on a membership registration code to be provided by National Consultative Front Secretariat. We must all note at all times that victory in this new national rescue and salvation journey can only be certain in our solidarity and unity. Thank you.